get a sea of whites or Asians out there, and it'll because of, police murder or something that happened. And I'm like, yo, where's young black men in representation when we're talking about young black men, right? And so I always wanted to be that person. I wasn't looking to become a speaker, right? But it was always one of my gifts. So anytime I recognize a gift, I have to use that for some purposeful fulfillment. From there was this school, Chabot College, that asked me to come speak. This was when I had like 500 followers. And I was talking to these students that I coach in my program about how, and they helped me realize, like, the first time I ever had a moment of like virality was the moment that I actually invested into my skills and gifts, right? And you're putting out content all day long, but it wasn't until I actually put money into it and hired a videographer, that first piece of content that I ever hired somebody for, it went viral. Wow. And almost every piece of minutes of that went viral consecutively, right? And so from there, I never dropped the ball on investing in myself and picking up my gifts and skills and talents.
Why do you think that was? Why was it that when you invested, then something changed? What happened there?
I think it was flow. One thing I've been big on is flow, right? Like flow, it can be of being present, but also being purposeful. And I think in that moment, I had a vision, right? And this vision was, I wasn't just speaking to those students. I was going to go in there, and the students was going to be in an experience of watching me speak to the world, right? So I'm in my room where the students are listening, but we're going to capture this for the world to see. And so when you observe an atom, it changes. I believe the same thing with attention and people are with cameras. When you feel like you observe, people clutch up, right? They can't perform the same, whether that attention is happening in present or whether it's going to happen later. So for me, I just felt like I was in flow state of being an observation that this is something that is going to help affect and make change within the world. And that development of that skills and that journey towards mastery, you understand me, allowed me to, appreciate that moment, be in the flow, right? And actually put energy of intentional investment dollars, right? I just feel like it was the perfect storm to magnetize that moment.
Love that. And I love what you say about flow, because now that you're saying it, I see that's exactly what it is. When you speak, it's spontaneous, extemporaneous. Flow is some energy from, I believe, from the divine when you really tap in. They say, it's funny, I was reading something the other day, Malcolm Gladwell, he's got the 10,000 hours to become a, master. He said, if you're actually in flow, you can cut that in half to 5,000. Because that flow state is that direct connection.
Right.
Tell me about you created something that I love. It's called high-level conversations.
Yes, sir.
What is a high-level conversation, and compare it to a low-level conversation?
I think most people have more experience with low-level conversations than they do high-level. The low-level conversations are the average conversations that are built around gossip.
With IXL, there's an endless number of skills that match exactly what my kids are working on in class right now, and with so many different kinds of questions. My kids never get bored. Yes! Yes!
Nonsense, distraction, escapism, entertainment, conversations that don't lead anywhere, conversations that don't give you an overview of things. See, but even in low-level conversations, to give you the actual definition of like low-level is more so the micro, it's the details. Where the high-level, is giving you an higher observation of reality.
Watch my videos, please subscribe, like, all that. This channel is about self-improvement. Right now, we are on a journey of building discipline. That is what my new series is called. Right now, I am doing 5-minute meditations for about 2 weeks. And yeah, right now we on I think today is day 9. And after 2 weeks, well, we're going to be doing it for 30 days, but after 2 weeks, I'm going to be added in a new habit to change. Probably smoking, but yeah, so just go to my channel, like, subscribe, watch the videos, and I just posted a video short today telling everybody to go meditate. Watch that and please go meditate.
life. So it can be without my own opinion. I'm just giving you a high level overview, right?
Please.
So most people are not used to, understanding things
Daquan, I
from a
appreciate
high
you.
level perspective. Most people try to
I
learn through the
appreciate your sub. I
details.
appreciate
And the
everybody who
details can be the
sub.
worst thing.
I really do. This is one of the things I've been. If you could see the timeline of my videos, discipline is one of the things that I really needed to work on, because I always, saying I'm going to do this, going to do that, then come back a couple days later, weeks later, months later, saying, oh yeah, I never did it. So right now we building discipline. My first, you know, goal that I'm working towards is meditating for 5 minutes a day for 2 weeks, and then after a month, it's going to go up to meditating for 10 minutes. And short things like that. We're going to eventually do workouts, uh, health, like changing our diet around, meal plans, cutting out chicken, beef, or anything. Like this channel, I got big. It's going to start out real slow. I'm going to tell y'all that now. It's starting out slow, but pretty soon we're going to be doing more things a day, and it's just going to grow, and it's going to be something crazy, and it's hopefully going to be some motivation for everybody to want to grow to their higher self and become a better person, and know that quitting these addictions and things that you got going on in your life is easy. It's all mental. So we're gonna go through it together. Again, I appreciate everybody who watching, tune in, take the time out of their day to watch me. Hopefully you can implement some of the things that I'm doing and talking about into your life to help you out.
To learn from, if you don't already have a high level perspective to build off of, right? When we learn, we're learning from, one thing I like to teach is learning how to learn, because most people don't know how to learn, right? So when you learn, you're going to learn the details, you're going to learn from the high level. And the details work better when you can just be in centered focus and you're just going in trying to extract the knowledge. But if you don't have structure to start from, you don't have any knowledge in the first place to understand it, it's going to be hard, and none of it's going to compute. It's going to fall off. So first, your goal is to get the overview of it. What is the actual high level of it? You understand me? Then once you get that, you can start adding in the details of understanding. So it's like casting a...
I'm going to go ahead and show y'all too. So I bought me this book right here. Them planner books. So for the month of August, I started on the 14th. That was the day I started, right there. This is going to be for next month. As you can see, like I said, after 2 weeks, I'm adding a new habit, taking out habits, adding in habits. I'm going to be running for 10 minutes next week, 3 times a week. Yeah, I just, we got a lot going on in this video. Hurt, don't it? Oh, I hate when he eating that bone. Crazy.
Large flashlight on the whole thing, then you can sort of center that into like a laser and get the details. But most people start with the details and I just don't get this. Well, start with understanding at a high level, then go in for the low level details.
And ironically, I guess the high level is the foundation.
It's the foundation. So we expose you, and then from that exposure, you can build on top of that.
One thing I've heard you say is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to misquote you, but you said that knowledge of self starts with understanding that you are God.
Yes, sir.
I love this, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand. Can you clarify a little bit what you mean?
Yeah. The funny thing about reality is so many people have so many different definitions of God, but it really stems from all of the same thing, consciousness, right? However you wrap it around. When people talk about God, they talk about the creator of movement, the creator of life, the creator of all, right? And so when you're talking about that, you are saying that there's this source from which all things stem from, and you believe that source from which all things stem from is the grand designer of all things, which you consider to be called God or Allah or whichever language you decide to utilize, right? So for me, when we're talking about knowledge of self, right? Who are you? Which is a question that most people do not deal with. How you doing? What you do, right? What you want to do. We deal with everything but the existential, internalized questions of who are you, right? And that you, when you're talking about the soul or the spirit, the breath, that prana, that ki, that chi, you understand me? When you're getting to the focus of who you are within self, that molecule of self, you're talking about your attachment to the source of all things, right? And from that source,
no ads.
you can draw from it. And being able to draw from source, meaning that you can do all things that source can do. In a book called Theology of Time, written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he has a quote where he breaks down. And I said, if I could say it quickly, it was about, you started from a zero. We're all zeros. They go to the board, and I want you to put a zero, and I want you to put a hyphen, right? He said, now put another zero on the other end. He said, okay, from here you have nothing that goes from nothing. He said, now I want you to put a 1 on the other end of that 0. So he said, now you have a fraction of a 1. You have half a 1. He said, now I want you to take that 1 and I want you to put it on the other side of the 0. And he said, now on this side of the 0, it's a 10, right? He said that 0 is that God standing next to us and giving us value. Because when God stands next to us, it 10x's our value, right? So we go from nothing to something. And then when you add more zeros, that is more people that you're bringing into the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self, right? People who were once nothing. So without knowledge of self, you are nothing. You don't have the capability of utilizing your mind, utilizing your spirit, utilizing your will, bringing things into existence. But when you teach a man, something happens profoundly. He knows how to use his mind. All of a sudden, he can conjure his visions and his dreams into reality. So what most people are doing when they're teaching people is that they're trying to give them the presence of God to stand next to them, give them the reality of God. And once you have that, then you are tenfold. But that knowledge of God is the knowledge of self. Right? So you are this infinite potential, right? But if you see a man that does not stand up and a woman that does not stand up for themselves, that's not God. It's not until they become the erect version of themselves where they stand up, stomach in, chest out, head up, and they move about reality with focus, with vision, with application. You can see that that person knows who they are. They are wide awake, living man and woman. The presence of God is within them.
Would you say this is the foundation of and the most important thing that you...
Yeah.
God. Crystallizing that, right? Most people believe in Christ, but Christ is that crystallization of consciousness, right? Once you reach a certain point, can it be crystallized, right? People love crystals because of the geometric crystallization, that this is energy trapped into form, right? But what happens when your mind is in an energetic form, right? Like, look at water. Water has many different versions. It can go from steam, solid, liquid, gas, and fourth phase of water, right? But water maintains the same amount of molecules and protons. It just rearranges. It's the same thing with consciousness. When consciousness rearranges and it becomes crystallized, it's a higher form of energy. When we see a snowflake crystallized based on the vibration of the earth magnetic field, we can see a crystallization of a vibration. So we can operate at low vibration or high. We know we can go from delta states to gamma, right? So what happens if you can always be in gamma, where you're always at heightened focus, emotional resilience, higher creativity?
How do you do that?
Oh, it's many different functions, brother. I would say, I like to look at the E's for me, right? It goes from education, exposure, experience, environment, right? If you focus on these, you really have the ease to be able to execute. So your environment is who you're around, which has a big dictation upon your nature.
Huge.
Right? So you can be a good person, but if you're in the wrong environment, then it can corrupt you. Right? I've seen, many people in the industry where, they are around something that is the opposite of themselves, but in that environment it's a judge-free zone. But when they leave that environment, they judge themselves the most, right? So they have to go back into that environment because they don't want to be judged, right? Because by themselves they're killing themselves, literally. We know that suicide is a high rate within men, right? Because men cannot deal with the solitude of their own thoughts and judgment. But you are in an environment that's conducive to your nature, then it makes you feel good about yourself because you're doing things that are connected to your purpose and your will and your drive. When you're doing things that are not connected to who you are, you'll feel like you're going against who you are. You become an enemy within your own body, right? So environment of having the right influence and structure and peer and group around you is key, right? Then you're talking about education. Our people suffer from a lack of proper education. You understand me? America suffers from a lack of proper education. We're supposed to be a first world country, but we have a third world education system, right? It doesn't teach you how to become enlightened. It doesn't teach you how to become a genius, an entrepreneur. We have a capitalist system, but it doesn't teach you capital. It doesn't teach you financial literacy. It doesn't teach you credit. It doesn't teach you how to set up trust and build and how to invest in bonds. Why not? Because the leaders, they didn't design it for you to lead them, right? They didn't design it for you to lead yourself. It's designed for you to need to be led so that you can fall into the system function as human capital. But as Frederick Douglass says, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. So the quickest way to free yourself is to know thyself, right? To be educated on all things around you, from your mind, body, spirit, your environment, right? Everything. That gives you the ability, which I believe is the highest level of freedom, which is choice. Because now you know what you can do and what you cannot do. But an ignorant man is stuck by the circumference of his knowledge. You understand me? But he has to be free. You understand me? Learn. So I believe that education is one of those keys, because if you look at all different people, how they built their wealth, it was based on them educating themselves, right? Not based on the law changing, not based on that. It was, we educated ourselves, right? That was our primal thing. Then when we're talking about exposure, a man can only, his mind is only as vast to his exposure, right? Okay. And the universe expands based on where light reaches. In the mind of a man, it's the same way, right? There are areas that are dark, areas that we have yet to expand our consciousness in. But once they expand, they cannot be contracted. So when you take somebody out of the environment, you take somebody and expose them to new knowledges and new truths, now their mind has expanded. Now it's up to them to fill those areas. And they can't be fulfilled until they fill those areas with light, with consciousness, knowledge, with purpose. So by giving someone exposure, they're no longer limited by their reality. They can be freed by their imagination. They can be freed by their experiences. And that's why it goes to experiences as well, because experience is actually what you do with the knowledge you have, what you do with the exposure, what you do with the environment, right? So being able to take these foundational things and man having principles to be able to live upon sets him on that journey of self-discovery, sets him on that journey of knowledge of self.
Yeah, love that. Wow. That's the formula right there.
Oh, tweak it.
It really is.
How you feeling?
Man, I feel good. Get a little sweat in.
All right, man. Well, let's step out. Let's cool down a little bit. Get some coconut water and.
It's hard for us to imagine a life with dirty water.
I'm banging on that like I'm LeBron.
Imagine for a moment.
Like I'm LeBron.
Continue this amazing conversation. High level conversation.
You want to spark cranberry?
What was the most difficult decision you
Alright,
had to
I'm off
make
this
in
zone.
order to fulfill?
Realizing that everybody